Bitter criticism. Reading back the genocide dossier on Al Jazeera. Let's see the chaos in the Middle East. Chaos in the Middle East. Yeah. Just 1 second. Al Jazeera. Just missing the previous art. This logo is not so beautiful, but there's 2 live updates going on. This is interesting. There's a live update about Ukraine on Al Jazeera, so just I know the more important thing, the most important thing is what's happening in the Middle East right here in Al Jazeera. But this time, I'm going to do different. I'm going to read about Ukraine. And says, live updates. Putin says any Russian-Ukraine ceasefire must lead to long-term peace. Putin says Russia agreed with U.S. proposals, but any ceasefire will have to deal with root cause of conflict. By Brian Osgood, March 13, 2025. There's the summary. President Vladimir Putin says Russia agrees with U.S. proposals to stop fighting, but any ceasefire will have to deal with the root causes of the conflict. Yeah. I love Vladimir Putin. U.S. negotiators are in Russia to present their plan for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine as Washington pushes Moscow for an unconditional pause to the 3-year conflict. A top Kremlin ID says any Ukraine peace settlement must secure Russia's interests, and that Putin will probably give his opinion on the U.S. ceasefire proposal later. Putin is meeting with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko in Moscow. Russia says countries deploying peacekeepers in Ukraine will be engaging in a quote-unquote direct armed conflict with Moscow, and it will respond by quote-unquote all available means. I guess this, I'm not sure about it, but definitely the US, France, Germany, UK, maybe even Italy, I'm not sure. 8 minutes ago, Thursday, March 13, Russia is taking maximalist position on truce but to buy time. So maximalism there, some Roberto Bolaño, yeah. Russia is taking maximalist position on truce to buy time. Michael Ryan, a former official with the U.S. Department of Defense, says Russia is seeking to stymie progress towards a potential ceasefire by making demands that it knows will be unacceptable to Ukraine. Quote, the Russians who feel themselves winning are taking a maximalist position and making demands that have been unacceptable in the past in the hope of giving themselves more time, Ryan told Al Jazeera 23 minutes ago. Putin's largest war ambitions have collapsed, Ukrainian major. Amid the uncertainty around the U.S. ceasefire push, Volodymyr Omelian, a major in the Ukrainian armed forces, says the Russian president has not been able to accomplish his war goals. Quote, his plans to capture Kiev, Ukraine, and get NATO out of Eastern Europe have all collapsed, end quote. Omelian told Al Jazeera. Quote, Trump is doing a favor for Putin with the call for negotiations because Otherwise, I will say that Russia will stand for another year or so, and then it will be a collapse of the whole Russian economy, he added. This is not likely. It is likely not happening. I guess Russia is getting better. 33 minutes ago, more on what Putin said by Dorsa Jabari. We have just heard from Vladimir Putin on the 30-day ceasefire proposal. His response is yes, in theory, but there are a lot of details to be worked out. I'm pretty sure that Donetsk, Zaporizhia region, Kherson region, this is a major issue. Putin said that he agrees to an end to the conflict, but there has to be a long-term solution. He said that he needs to speak to US President Donald Trump, as he has a number of questions and concerns regarding this deal moving forward. He also said that monitoring the violations of a ceasefire is going to be very complicated, and that there are issues requiring research on both sides. So it sounds like for the time being, the Russian president is open to the idea of a temporary ceasefire, but there are a lot of details that still need to be worked out. The U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is in Moscow to hammer out all the details and answer the questions. It's a step definitely in the right direction, but whether or not it will see us through the finish line in terms of an end to the conflict remains to be seen. March 13th, 38 minutes ago, Zelensky says Ukraine ready for free trade deal with Turkey. The Ukrainian president says he had a meaningful meeting with Turkish government and business sector officials. So, quote, we discussed efforts to bring a just and lasting peace closer, the development of bilateral relations, opportunities for cooperation in the production of various types of drones, and the participation of Turkish companies in Ukraine's reconstruction, end quote. Zelensky wrote on X. It's funny because Turkey, you never know about Erdogan. He said Ukraine considers Turkey, quote, one of its strategic partners as well as a partner in terms of security guarantees, end quote. Kiev is ready to ratify the free trade agreement with during Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's upcoming visit to the country, Zelensky added. Erdogan, such a dirty rat. 42 minutes ago, Thursday, May 13th, Russia supports end to fighting, but issues need to be discussed, Putin. The Russian president says he supports the U.S. push to stop the fighting, but there are issues that need to be discussed. Putin said any ceasefire should lead to a long-lasting peace and will have to deal with the root causes of the conflict. Quote, we need to hold consultations with our American counterparts, end quote, including Trump, Putin told reporters. And for the last 1 hour ago, NATO's quote-unquote Trump whisperer heads... Oh, just 1 second. Heads to White House for tough talks. There's a new live update, so the layout changed. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte will visit the White House to convince Trump to maintain U.S. commitment to the transatlantic alliance and to Ukraine. Doubted the quote-unquote Trump whisperer for his ability to manage the mercurial U.S. leader, the former Dutch Prime Minister will face a tough job on convincing Trump that NATO allies are paying enough for their own defense. Trump has repeatedly called into question whether the United States will defend allies who do not boost their defense spending, causing major jitters as Europe faces an increasingly aggressive aggressive Russia on its doorstep. Rudd will also be trying to smooth over recent tensions between Trump and Ukraine, as a top U.S. negotiator arrived in Moscow to deliver a ceasefire proposal following a shift pivot by Trump towards Russia. Quote, I expect key messages will be around how much Europe is stepping up on spending, how we all need to do more on defense production, and welcoming progress in pursuit of peace for Ukraine, end quote, Rudd spokeswoman said. Rudd has a spokeswoman. Trump will host Rudd in the Oval Office before the pair leave lunch at the White House. The NATO chief will also meet senior Trump administration officials and members of the U.S. Congress. And let's see fast a few seconds ago, Lukashenko and Putin's joint appearance underscores economic partnership. This is not a news, By Dorsey Jabari, this was certainly another meeting between two leaders who have met countless times in the past to reiterate how close their relationship and ties are, and that they will remain close. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the two countries will continue cooperation and that they have had constructive talks. He mentioned the economic ties that the two countries share. He said Russia accounts for 60% of Belarus trade. His country invests $4.5 billion in the Belarusian economy, and Russia is the main economic partner of Belarus. The other important point he announced is that starting now, Russian citizens living in Belarus and Belarusian citizens living in Russia will be allowed to vote in these two countries and stand for office. It's almost the same country. This is the first time this will happen. And that was the latest hours in the Ukraine conflict.